So hello guys, welcome to the second episode of Preet Codes in Python. And as you already know, we have the first episode which spoke about how to set up a Django project and how to go about running a Django server successfully. In this second episode, we are going to cover a little bit about models. Models basically mean how a database will create tables and what fields will be there in those tables. That's how we dictate something called as the architecture of the project, where we understand what data has to be stored, how it has to be stored, and how with what parameters can it be retrieved from the database as well. So Django works on an architecture called MVT, which is a model, view, and template architecture. So in this episode, we're gonna start covering the M of it, the model of the model view template. And like I already said, it's like the architecture of your project. So let's take a quick recap and start our Django environment. So here we are in our project folder. We go to env, we go to scripts folder, we go to the address bar on top and type cmd. And now we just type activate because we are already in the directory. We go back to our root folder, that is project 2, and we see we have the my site and the environment folder out there. Let's navigate into my site and let's start the code editor. So we'll just type code dot and it should start the files. Okay, so as you can see, I'm in my settings.py file of the project. Models are usually created inside the Django application. For us, the Django app is core, and as you can see, there's a models.py file over here. And what we're gonna do today is we're gonna create some models such as a user model to store user data. Then we're gonna create some vendor models to store vendor data from who we are buying the goods from. Some client models so that we can actually figure out which clients we are selling to. And the last one will be brand and product so that we know which product and which brand that product is associated to. So this will basically a small thing of what we're going to achieve today. So for the user model to come into picture, since we need to do a little bit of authentication for login or for whoever can use the application. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna dive right into it and start working with the Django Rest Framework. So let's go to our browser and see how we can install the Django Rest Framework. As you can see, we've installed Django Rest Framework. I had already searched for it. Go to this link and copy this. And since your environment is already active and we have pip already installed, just hit enter and it should start installing the Django Rest Framework. As you can see, successfully installed. My Django Rest Framework has been installed. Now to run through the Django Rest Framework, there are a certain amount of settings that we need to do. I'll walk you through them so that it's easier for you to navigate around the settings and check it out for yourself. And today, towards the end of this lecture, we'll also see how we can create a Git repository and push our code to Git using GitHub desktop application and by running also some commands in the terminal. So let's do that. So here is the project that I have been building simultaneously so that a lot of code I don't have to actually type. I can just copy paste the code right for you guys. So it will be a complete project by the end of this um, series. I have not built much. As you can see, my views.py file is still empty. I have some models built in because I was testing stuff out before building this. I've used some admin modules. So yeah, it's still in the works. But then let's dive into the settings. So first, since we have already installed the Django REST framework, we can just copy these two items and put it in our settings.py file under applications. You remember we had already set up the core app. This is a library that comes through, so we have to install those also. And as you can see, we have pasted that. The second thing that you need to do is set up the authentications. So I'll just give you a brief of how the authentication is set. So there are three authentication classes that we are using. We're using basin authentication, session authentication, basically which keeps the user in session so that you are like don't have to log in back again and again. And last one is the token authentication. So let's say if we have a mobile app tomorrow and the user needs to authenticate, they can use this token for authentication and it will fetch all user data. We'll dive along into that later into the project. And then we're also telling Django and the REST framework which model is actually the user model that we have configured. So just copy this and paste this inside our settings.py file. So this is now complete. So this is how easy it is to actually set up the Django REST framework in a lot of ways, right? It takes care of a lot of things for you. It takes care of password hashing so that your password is safe. Usually what happens is when we set a password, let's say 1234, 1234 is not stored in the database as 1234. It is hashed with a lot of layers of encryption so that nobody can crack that password through without a salting key or something like that. These are some advanced concepts which we might cover coming up in the future. We are also going to cover GWT authentication, which is a beautiful thing to run authentication between your microservices. But yeah, now diving into models. Now let's open the models.py file inside the application, right? So we need to import a few things before you can actually start writing a model. One thing is already imported for us is from django.db import models. So we can start building our models out there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use the default Django user model and building on top of that. So I'm just creating an abstract user wherein I can add fields to the existing Django user model and also import time zone. I'll tell you why we imported time zone also. Now the syntax for this works when you're creating a model is class user, because we had written user in the settings.py file, and this user is an abstract user. So we'll just define that. Now the Django user model by default comes with a few fields inbuilt in it, like first name, last name, password, is super admin. Then we have email field already integrated into it. Username field is already there. So these fields are already there. But let's say I want to collect a lot more data. Let's say I want contact number, address, pin code, city for my users, so I can track where my users are from. If this was a application like that, but let's collect some more data. Let's collect contact number. So I'm gonna write contact number. Models to character field, char field. Now I'm using char field, but you can also use integer field. Sometimes I don't encourage using integer fields because in char field I can have certain freedom to play around with. Let's say tomorrow if I want to launch in a different country and I can change that, and I can change my format. Not country, that might be not a very relevant example, but I usually store it in a char field. That's how I was taught. Honestly speaking, I never thought about it before this. So yeah, max length will be 10 digits because we are in India right now. Then we will have the null component to be false, so that this field is never false when saving a user, and blank will also be false. Now let's say we want a address field is equal to address underscore 1 is equal to plus that field. Now we might need more characters than 10, right? So we put 320, copy this and make address 2, and we're gonna copy this and put address 3. Now address 3 I want to keep optional. I don't want everybody to fulfill their full addresses, right? So instead of null being false, null is equal to true, so that we can take true null values into this field. Now pin code, air field, max length is equal to 7 in India, null is equal to false, blank is equal to false. So here we collect some additional data. Let's collect city also. So I just put 320 characters, then we collect state, then we collect country. Now we can assign also default value here. See, so I'll just put a default value as India. So anytime if nobody's putting this, the by default the value will be India. So this is works. So now we are gonna write a command wherein inside the Django admin panel, which we'll cover in this chapter, how will this user appear? Because otherwise I have not defined it. How will the user appear, right? So it will just take its own way to appear. So we'll just define that. This is called a self string, wherein I'm defining how this should look in my Django admin panel. So we'll use an f string in this one, and we'll put self.email. Now, as you can see, we don't have an email field out here. But since we are using the Django abstract user and we are just adding onto it, this is a default field that comes in. We'll also take self.contact number. Okay, so this was how it will appear in Django admin panel. Okay, so here we have created our first ever Django model called user, which will be used for user authentication and who is using your application, right? So this can be distributed amongst your teams. Maybe future we can think about giving it to clients. We'll figure that out as and when we go and how big actually we want to build this project into, because this is going to be a pretty long series to cover. All right. So now let's do one thing. Let's migrate this and try to run the server one so we can see some data coming in. Python py make migrations. So here I'm making migrations. That means I'm telling Django whatever changes I've done in models to be incorporated. And then when we fire the migrate command, it will write it into a table and create tables accordingly in the database. So we put make migrations, create model user. It has captured our model user. Python manage.py migrate. And now it is running all the migrations to create various different tables in our SQLite database that we're currently using. Once we build a few things and we want to really test things out, we will start using PostgreSQL, and we'll learn how to integrate PostgreSQL also into this software that we're building currently. So yes, things are done. Python manage.py run server. Let's see if our server fires up. Yes, now the server is fired up. It's running on the localhost environment. So now, since there is no data and we want to see, okay, let's create a user first so that we as super users we're creating the project, we should have all area access, right? So let's create a super user where I can actually log into the Django admin and show you things around. Manage.py create super user, and it's asking my username, which we'll just use our email IDs. In, and my super user has been created successfully. Now let's run the server once again. Okay, so I'm running the server now. It's running on this localhost 127.0.0.1.a hash 8000 pod. So now let me take you to the views and template part a little bit. So the views are connected to templates through something called URLs. What we type in a browser usually to get a web page, let's say google.com is a URL, right? So here, as you can see in our urls.py file, but in the base folder, in our Django project folder, you can see there is already a path created called admin, and it has admin.site.url. So let's not get into the details of this site.url, but just take this and go to our browser and type admin. So as you can see, I can see a page here which is like the Django admin page. So remember, we just created a super user and my credentials already filled in it. So I'll just click on login. So here I'm inside the Django model, Django admin, right? It's very powerful. It's used for a lot of small changes that you want to build. You can run this without an admin panel being created, so you can do a lot of stuff before here only without having to create any additional UI for some CRUD functions. CRUD is create, read, update, delete. So here we cannot see our user model as of now because we haven't registered the model yet to the admin to know that okay, we have created a new model, right? So let's go back to our code. So here we are going to go to our admin.py file, right? So admin has already been imported by the Django project, right? And now we will write the code to import the Django model and show it in a Django admin panel. Okay. So first things first, Django needs to know where it has to pick up the model from. So we are going to say from the core folder in the models file, import star. Now star basically imports every single thing that is there in the models.py file. If I just want something specific to be imported, I'll just put from core.models, user has to be imported. Or later on when we create clients, vendors, and products, we'll get to that. But as of now, I'm importing everything. So here it's imported now. Now I'll just type in admin.site.register user. So now my user is registered to the Django admin. Now, as you can see this page, we just go to the browser again and hit refresh. And now you can see users. Now, as you can see, I can see my email ID because we had defined it while creating the model that I want to show my email ID and the contact number. But while creating the super user, we didn't get asked for contact number, right? So how do we make this string complete? Because I cannot see my contact number. So just click on this, scroll below. You can see all your fields here and just type in the contact number. and the fields that are mandatory will be, I think, in bold. So yeah, address one. See, India was by default, so it directly came. Let's start Maharashtra. Okay, my address is already there, and I'll just click on save. So now the address has been updated, and see, as you can see now, my string is complete, and I have everything filled in. Okay, so this is how basically a Django super user works, where you have Django admin access, but be very careful with this because this has no validations in it. Any change that you do will directly affect your database. So just be a little bit careful when you're using this. Use it only when you have to. Otherwise, use front-end forms and applications which you build on your own so that you can build your own custom validations and your logics how the forms will work. Let's log out from this for a second. So now it's logged me out, and now we're back to the login page. Let's go back to the terminal. Let's shut down a server. Now the command for shutting down your server is Control and C, Control plus C. So I've shut down my server. Let's go back to code. Now we have created one, model. Let's create a second model called class vendor models.model. Now, not this is a custom model that we're creating for ourselves. We're not piggybacking on the abstract user or anything. So here we have to type models.model. Now let's start creating some fields. The company name, I want to know who I'm dealing with. So we'll just take this copy. In coding, it's very important to copy, guys, because that will make you faster, but copy the right things. Okay, just look at the code you understand, then only copy. Just don't copy blindly from chat gpt or wherever. All right, but copying is very important. It will make you a faster developer. Company name, I want to know who the contact person is over there. I want to also know the contact number since it's a similar field. So let's copy. I want to keep all these fields mandatory. Okay, we also want the address, city, pin code, country. Okay, let's copy that also. Now let's collect some additional data. We want the GST number is equal to models dot char field max length is equal to 27 because India में GST number is 27 characters का null is equal to true. I'll tell you why. Blank is equal to true. Let's say we have a vendor who is not GST registered. So shall we stop taking goods from him? Maybe not, because we are not paying GST on it. So it's a finance thing. I won't get into that. But let's say I found a purchase from somebody who doesn't have a GST number. What can you do? So I have to keep this field uh, optional. Now we collect the PAN card number. But the PAN card number is very important. So we will not have that as an optional field. That will be mandatory. So null and blank will be false and max length will be 10 because PAN card numbers in India are 10. Now let's again copy this thing and we will see how to showcase our name in the Django admin panel. So let's copy and paste this. Now let's go to our admin model, admin.py file and register the model. Site.register vendor. Now this vendor model that we have created, we have not migrated it yet. So it's not in the database yet. So let's add some additional fields to collect some more additional data. I want to get created on when this record in this model was actually created on which date. So we'll be using a new type of field type called date time field, and default value will be time zone dot now. So this is why we imported the uh, time zone upstairs from Django.utils, because I want to add the created on time by itself. I also want to get who was it created by. We need accountability in the company, guys. Come on. So we'll be referencing our first foreign key in this. Foreign key basically connects two models together. So I'll just type models dot foreign key, and we'll use user because we want a user which user created it, and null will be uh, false. Let's keep it false. Blank, no, null needs to be true. I'll tell you why. And blank also needs to be true because tomorrow whenever you're referencing a foreign key, you need to give an on delete parameter to it. Now, what does on delete mean? Basically, whenever you will, let's say, I, Preet, as a user created a company called X, right? So when I'm creating this vendor, and let's say tomorrow I'm no longer with the company and I want to delete this particular user from my system. So since this user had created this particular record, should this record also be deleted? That's what we are trying to pass on. What happens on delete of this user value that is referencing to the user model. So in this case, we'll set it to null. Set null. Set null. Models dot set null. That's the correct syntax. Models dot set null. So whenever let's say I delete my user Preet, it will automatically set this parameter to null, and it won't delete the whole model. So that is why you have to allow null values as true and blank values as true, because when it gets deleted, it needs to set a set value. So we cannot have it as false. Uh, so yeah, that's how that's how company. So you will have to get a little bit into design thinking of understanding what the user will tell you to build and what they will not tell you to build, but it's good to have kind of things. These things are good to have. Creates a little bit more of accountability. You can actually tell this to your client that, okay, see, this is a additional thing that we have, so it creates more accountability, and they'll appreciate that also. So let's create another model called clients. Now here's the hack. Copy this entire thing and paste it here. Your clients are created. Let's have some uniformity. Vendor and client we will have, and my laptop's back. Yeah. So since vendor, I just want to collect the same details as I'm collecting from my vendor from my client. So this is good to have. Same things we can capture, and it's fine. So this is how it is supposed to work. And now, so this is how our two models have been created. We'll register also the client model over here. Client. So it is also important because of this from code.models.imports asterisk star. So let's try to migrate these also. So first command that will fire is python manage.py make migrations. And see, it is created. Now we say migrate. So it is creating the models now in the database. Okay, applied. Now let's run the server again. Okay, server is running. Go to the browser, Django installed, admin, and see, you log in, and you can see your voila, clients and vendors are here. So this is how different field types work. We have learned a couple of field types today called character field type, date type field type, and a foreign key field type, right? So just these are some types of fields that you will be keeping on using over a period of time, and as on along you go your Django project. Um, so let's take one more small example and end the session by building the brand and the products model, because that will again have a foreign key reference, and we'll be also exploring how decimal fields and integer field work. So let's dive into that. I'm creating a model called brand, which is like a simple model. We'll just have three fields, one which will again be a character field. So copy paste, guys. Copy paste is very important. And I want to know created by and created on. So copy paste. And we'll also copy this so that we know how it is appearing. This is important. I'll show you why. Brand name. And we just need to remove this. Now let's create product. This is a little tricky, so guys just pay a little bit of more attention. First we'll say which brand. Models dot foreign key. Okay, and we'll put brand in it, and we'll have to pass the on delete by default models dot cascade. Now cascade basically means when the brand is deleted, delete this model, delete this product also. So we need to have backend checks, but we mostly will never be deleting any brand, will not be firing any command to delete the brand. So these are safe. So in this case, you can have, okay, if this is cascade set null, it's fine, whatever you keep it. Uh, it's just about more about how you want to build your architecture, right? So this is how it basically will work, right? So I'll collect product name, and we'll again take character field, copy paste, product name. Oh, sorry, wrong copy paste. I want the SKU code, stock keeping unit code. Then I want how CGST will work on it. So we'll do something different. Decimal field, max digits is the default argument I'm going to give. We'll say 10. Decimal places is equal to 2. How many decimal places do you want? 2, and we'll set a default to 0. So let's recap. When we want a decimal field, because I might most likely would have a decimal point coming in, because tax calculations usually have decimal points, right? So let's say if I have GST as 5% on my product, so CGST will be 2.5%, SGST will be 2.5%. So I need decimals. So max digits, how many digits you want in this field? 10. I think it's sufficient enough for a product GST percentage. Decimal place only 2 decimal places, and the default value will be 0. So let's copy this. So we'll change this to SGST. It's the same thing. IGST, same thing. We'll also take the MRP. Again, keep it as a decimal field because MRP might be sometimes in, who knows, to apply discounts or anything, to apply some markups, we need the MRP in decimal fields. Let's keep it that way. Okay. Then what else do I want? I want the opening stock. Integer field, because integer field, and I will just leave this blank. Integer field can be blank. I'm stating that it can be an integer. I can assign a default value of 0, and let's say available quantity, because we need to manage inventory also, correct? And MRP will give you the selling price, and taxes will reverse calculate. We'll work on that. It's going to be fun. So now let's copy this so that we can see how our model will look. First, I wanted the product. Now I also want the brand name to appear, right? So if I just put in self dot brand, see, I'm just referencing this inside my this model, inside this field inside my product model, right? So now if I don't give any parameter, right, then it will showcase me over here what I've defined in the string function. So here by default the brand name will appear. But let's say if this was something else, okay, or we hadn't defined this string parameter. So in that case, what we can do is, now self has the brand, and inside the brand I just want the brand name. So I'll just get dot brand name. This is how I can reference a lot of things internally. So from brand I went to brand name. I don't want the brand name, I want who was it created by. So I'll get created by. Now created by is a user model. And how in the user model does the name appear? Email ID and contact number. So okay, I don't want email ID and contact number. I want to see first name. So I'll say first brand dot created by dot first name. See, it automatically appears. So this is how I can go inside a model and get the related fields through my foreign keys. But you only want brand name. So since we have already defined this, we'll just keep this to brand. Okay. Time to tell this to my Django admin model. Product is registered now. This is running, so we can stop the server and run make migrations command. And now it has created brand and product, and now we'll say migrate. Restart the server again. Go to our Django admin and see, voila, we have products. Oh, we don't have brand. Let's add brand also. Admin.site.register brand. Server is refreshed. Now we have brand also. But let's just for fun, let's try creating a product first. Okay, no product, select product to change. I'm going to add a product. I cannot add this brand. Can I add this without the brand parameter being there? No, I will not be able to, right? So let's first create the brand first and see what happens. Brand, we'll say Cadbury, create by Preet. There is already one user in it, so Cadbury is created. Now let's create one more brand. Get Parley, created by Preet. Save. So Parley and Cadbury is appearing. Now, just for fun, I want to see who created this brand. So in this thing, go with created by dot first name. Oops, I'm in the wrong project. Yeah, brand name dot self dot created by dot first name. So see, it's already, so see, my name came Preet created this. Now I want the email came. Now I will teach you something interesting. I want a primary key, like the number of the what is the primary key to this Django model. Self.pk. You can also use self.id. Both of them work just fine. 2211 id and pk is the same thing, so we'll just keep one. So this is a primary key. Now so yeah, this is how the models work and the admin panel works. Now let's create a product. It's Cadbury. See, because here we have defined only brand. Earlier we had brand name, so now we can do brand underscore name. Oh, this is for the product. Okay, here so this is only going to appear because it's a yeah, Cadbury. Dairy Milk's Q code will be 001, CGST will be 99, GST will be 18, MRP is 50. Omnistock is 0, available quantity is 100. So we have created a first product, Cadbury Dairy Milk, and it's appearing brand.brand name and self.product.name. Now, if I were to remove this brand name, see what will appear. The full brand string is appearing. This one. So let's not have that. No more clutter. So server refreshed, and that's how Cadbury is here. And that's how we created a product. We had to create vendors and everything, but that just fields that we have to fill. In clients also, there are just fields we have to fill to create clients and vendors. So this works well. This is how your Django models are created. And next time we'll explore a little bit more into the architecture side by creating an order and order product module, order detail module. So that is going to be a lot of fun. And we also create a purchase and purchase detail model. So that will be even more fun because their calculations will start get involved, and we'll override the traditional Django save function to make some calculations while saving, so they don't have to write the logic there. That's a hack or a trick that we can utilize. So see you next time and create code with Python, and don't forget to share and subscribe. Cheers.